What's going on, beautiful people? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And how do you read someone's mind? And is it possible? Is it possible to go into someone's mind and read their thoughts? And the answer is absolutely. It is 110% possible. I've been getting lately into yoga, but when I say yoga, most people think stretching, right? But stretching is just a small, tiny, maybe 5% the element of the actual yoga. Yoga means union, right? And it's a whole system of being. Very interesting stuff. I'm not by no means a yogi. I know jack shit about it, but I'm like getting interested in it. I have a friend of mine, he's really into that stuff. And he's showing me some content, some stuff, very interesting. So they have something called siddhis. And siddhis are magical powers that one can develop, one can have as a result of ascending your consciousness or just being really in tune with the elements and knowing how to use your mind, knowing how to use your body, and knowing how to use your consciousness. It's essentially, it takes practice, and most importantly, the most important thing about being able to read someone's mind, the most important thing is meditation. Meditation is probably going to be the number one thing if you want to develop these siddhis, these magical powers, which if you don't believe in them, you don't have to, but they exist. They're real. And one interesting story, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ram Dass. Ram Dass is this Westerner who got really high on LSD. He's a Harvard professor at the time, was a psychiatrist or psychologist or both, and he dabbled with psychedelics, and he wanted to get the real stuff. He wanted to like be permanently high and naturally on psychedelics. So he went to India, met a guru, Neem Karoli Baba, right? And there's so many stories about that guy from so many people. But one of the stories he said, he was sitting in a mountain, right? Because it's in the mountains. He was sitting and thinking about his mom, right? Because his mom, I think she, geez, correct me if I'm wrong, either she's about to die because she had cancer or she already died 6 months ago or about to die in 6 months. I can't remember which is which. And he thought about her, and she had something to do with her spleen. So then the next day, Neem Karoli Baba, the guru, he tells him, he's like, last night at this exact time, you were thinking about your mom, and you were thinking about her spleen and how she either died from spleen or about to die. And Ram Dass was mind blown because he hadn't told that to anyone. Like, he had not told that to anyone. Anyway, that was only the beginning of it, because as it turns out, as he got to know his guru more and more, and this is like child's play in the amount of things that guy can do, so-called paranormal things. But simply, that guy is just on a higher state of consciousness. He's ascended his consciousness into a higher level, and he possesses all these siddhis, all these powers of reading the past, reading the future, and reading someone else's mind, and manipulating the elements of nature, right? Shamans still do that in the Amazon all the time. Shamans can make it rain. They can make it rain because their consciousness at a higher level, they're connected to the spirit world, they're able to manipulate the nature. Okay, so this is possible. All these things are possible, and I'm very interested in them. So definitely we'll talk more about these things in this channel. I'm like mind fucked right now with all this shit, right? So, but digressing back to reading someone's mind, it is totally possible. And I think the most important thing is meditation, because if you meet with someone and you truly genuinely want to read their mind, your mind has to be empty. It has to be empty. You have to be at that no thought state, at that meditative state, at that present moment state. Because if your mind is the monkey mind, getting fucking drunk and fucking shit up, then when that person comes and you want to read their mind, you can't even read their mind, because your mind is so cluttered with chatter that you're gonna be projecting. So you're gonna think, oh, for example, you're gonna think, oh, this guy thinks I stink, for example. Let's say like you stink, and that's just because you think you stink, and you're thinking in your head, oh my god, I stink, and the first thing you see when that guy sees you, do I stink, right? Like, do I stink? Oh, that guy thinks I'm stinking. Oh, I just read his mind, and that's not reading his mind. That's just reading your own mind, your own bullshit projections. That's not reading his mind. That's not reading her mind, right? That's just you projecting. That's you caught up in the mental chatter that's going on here, and then you're projecting. You know, another thing, you come across a girl, you're trying to read if she likes you or not, right? And you have certain perception in your head, like, oh, I look nice today, so, and then you kind of see her and automatically you think, oh, she likes me. Again, you're projecting what you think. Not to say that is not influencing, because that is influencing the other person, meaning if you think she likes you, she's more likely to like you, believe it or not. But doesn't mean she will. It just means she's more likely to like you. You increase the probability. We're in a probability-based reality. She's more likely to like you. If you think you stink, and the first thing you say when you come across someone is I stink, that guy is more likely to pick up on your thought or pick up on the vibe and start to be like, oh my god, this guy fucking stinks. You know, so it really influences the other person's behavior, but that's not really what we're after, are we, in this specific case? Because you just influence the behavior, you know, you don't necessarily, you try to alter the probability. But if that girl doesn't like you, she doesn't like you. Even if you think she likes you, she just doesn't like you. You can't really force that thing. You can influence it. If she's 50-50 and you come in and you're really convinced that she likes you, you might tip it into a, you know, a more odds that are more favorable in her liking you. So you're playing with probability. But as far as reading her mind, if you're sincere and you really want to read her mind or his mind, whatever, the person, right? You want to read the girl's mind if she likes you, or you want to read what that person's thinking at the moment. Your mind has to be empty. You have to be in a meditative state. It has to be empty so that it can pick up on the thoughts. It can pick up on what's going on. You just look at the person, you look them, you know, look them in this area, right? This is usually where thoughts are, in the third eye, in the pineal gland, in this area, right? Just look them in this area, and if your mind is really empty, truly, and you're in truly meditative state, you'll pick up on the thoughts, and they'll just translate in your own voice, right? Like they'll just translate to you in your own voice, or a feeling, right? That's even a better way of reading someone's mind. If you get a certain feeling, like you just get a feeling and you know, and then that feeling can get translated into words, like, oh, she thinks I'm cute, or oh, he thinks I stink. And then from that point, you think, okay, when you translate that I think I stink, then he's probably thinking that. It's not just your own projection. And when you translate that girl thinks I'm cute, you're not just putting your own projections, she actually thinks you're cute. And you just get the feeling, and the feeling gets translated into words, if you will, right? And I'm sure this is just a very basic level of it, because like I said, some people out there can actually fucking read every thought word for word, because they're able to look at this whole thing as a matrix, which it is, an information-based matrix, and their consciousness is at such a level where they really can read. They can read word for word, thought for thought, because they're so connected into the oneness, and they can see everything in terms of an information, and they can pick it up and they can translate it. But for us, you know, for me, I'm pedestrian when it comes to this shit, right? For me, I'm okay with the basic stuff of just meditate, empty your mind, get it to be as empty as possible, get it to have as least amount of ego chatter and projections and as possible, and then simply come from a sincere place that I want to read your mind. I'm not trying to project, I'm not trying to manipulate, I'm not trying to get you to like me more, I'm not trying to get you to think I'm not stinking. I just want to really see what your thought is. You come from a sincere place, not from an ego place, and that again requires meditation and an empty mind. Then you hear it in a feeling, you hear it in words. You can get a basic understanding of what's going on there. So definitely, the more you develop your intuitive skills, the better this gets, right? For sure, hands down, you'll know what's going on in the other person. If you're sincere, again, if you're not projecting your own bullshit. Very difficult place to get to, but I'm sure some of you guys are already there, and I'm sure, I mean, I certainly get there when I meditate. I definitely get there when I meditate, so I know this to be true. I know it's possible, and this is why I'm gonna try and meditate more. Because it would be kind of fun. It's like walking around with a superpower, right? Hey.
Right.
It would be like walking around with a superpower, right? And who doesn't want to be walking around reading people's minds? I do. But again, the paradox is, you might think of it like, ha 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 ha, I can read people's minds, right? Then you allow your ego to come in, you allow this showing off aspect of you to come in, and soon enough you won't be able to read people's minds as good because you're projecting. The paradox of it is, it's a superpower, but you have to be humble to receive that superpower. You have to be truly humble, because that humbleness, your projections on that person doesn't get in the way. You understand what you want them to do. You want her to like you. You want him not to think you stink. You know, it really. So meditate, empty your mind. That's it. That's the secret. God bless you all. I love every single one of you guys, but don't forget to subscribe, or you're gonna sleep with the fishes. So subscribe.